It's me, it's PLD.
And I'm Rich Derek Jarvie.
And I'm Matty Gunner, and this is Class Action.
The classiest movie show on the interwebs.
Not today, it ain't.
Yes, it is.
So
We're classy dudes talking classy movies in a civil way.
Right
You hear that,
very
folks?
second. At this second, we are very, very civil. You are absolutely right. You're the most civilest show on the interwebs at this very second.
So it could be a civil war.
A war between civility. Yes, we were. We'll see how it goes. I guess it's all going to depend on you guys. Really, honestly, it all depends on you guys. We'll see how this turn of events will change our demeanors. At the end, this might be the last episode. We might
might also be the last episode of Holy Snopes.
This is the second episode of Back or Class Action Live. This is my 1,000th episode of podcasting at this point in this channel. This might end the channel. This could end the entire channel. The whole thing could go up in smoke. Holy smoke, actually, as it were. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out because we are putting up two of the greatest films of all time. Well, one of the greatest films of all time and one that might be considered that eventually, depending on the time frame. It only came out 2024. I'm not willing to say the best of all time. It's got when in 50 years we're still talking about it, then we'll talk. But right now,
you better not have that as an argument.
It is. It's going to be an argument at this point.
We're fucked already.
One word for you: legacy. Anyway, let's move on. We are doing The Empire Strikes Back.
So lazy. If you say legacy, we know that it's a cop-out answer, and you don't have a real one.
Nope. When you
You begin.
To deny legacy.
Civil.
Let me where's my T. To deny legacy is to
Civil.
deny greatness. And to deny
Civil.
part of the greatest of all time. I am very civil right now. The Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5 of the greatest trilogy of all time, versus Dune, Chapter 2, which I want to get this right off the top. Right off the bat, I'm going to say this right now. Denis Villeneuve, probably my current favorite director. Over Nolan, over Flanagan's like my favorite horror guy, but this is the guy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love Dune. I want to say that now, just so so everybody's aware that I love both Dune and Dune Chapter 2.
I mean, is there like all three of us love both movies? I mean, that's a given, right? So this is what makes it such a tough matchup. Is like we're actually putting our babies into the cage. No, in a courtroom, civil courtroom.
Civil.
To see.
This is a custody battle.
Yes.
Battle to the death. I mean, death penalty too. I don't know what we're. Look, you're putting up Dune Chapter 2 versus the one movie I will always go back to as my favorite film of all time. So that's what's going up against. And nostalgia is a hell of a drug. I have told you guys point blank that I am definitively biased. I know this. I'm going to do my best to listen to your arguments, and I'm going to see what I have to say and see if anything rings true. Because that's going to be the burden of proof is going to be on you guys if Dune's to win. I'm going to tell you that right off the top of the bat. I'm admitting it now.
Why are you acting like this is an easy one for me? Like, I also have this bias. This is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Because the way you've been talking like a traitor in the chat.
Because I am coming at this with a point of science, facts, and logic. Not legacy, not bias. I'm
not nostalgia.
Not nostalgia.
Feelings, it must be true.
Not this time.
And that is why you fail.
I mean, and we're also doing something different today. We have 10 categories and a wheel.
We do. We have a very special wheel. So we had 10 categories that we all prepared, but we don't know which one we're actually have to fight tooth and nail for. I know what I want to come out on the wheel. I know what some of you want to come out on the wheel, but let's see what happens when the wheel gets spun. That's what we'll take this show.
There is an ulterior motive to the wheel.
You did say this. You mentioned this right before we went live, so I'm kind of curious.
So the reason I mentioned why we are using a wheel to these guys, which I'll explain to the audience now, is that we've come up with 10 categories which will be selected completely at random, which we will have to answer. If the other 5 don't get picked, They don't get included in the argument. The categories will truly be what decides this. Normally, it's we pick 5 categories and we decide those categories, and the result is based on the categories we decide. This time, it's out of our hands. The wheel will decide. Also, POD doesn't get to pull a 6th category trick because we've already prepared for 10.
Wow. I don't like this.
He's going to
you're
pull
lucky.
an 11th category on us.
I almost, like I said off air, I almost recruited Mike Deacon to be my ace in the card. He's going to be my secret juror. The juror is going to use to stack the deck. I even considered that. To be
Surprise witness.
Surprise witness. Exactly.
Mike Deacon's just going to go around whacking the jurors.
Exactly. He is my behind the scenes. He's my Boba Fett. I've hired him to take out everybody.
We need protective custody on this show.
Of course, the best news I could just have. All of a sudden, something could happen, and oh, there he goes. There he goes. I wouldn't do that, though. I would never do that. I'm very fair and unbiased.
Yeah, we've never kicked anyone out of the show before when we don't like an argument.
Well, it's not my fault Ed Harris came down and whooped Avatar's ass. That's not my fault. That was Ed Harris who did that, not me.
Speaking of Ed Harris.
Yes. Is that what we're going to do right away? We're just going right into it? I didn't even tell you what the show's about yet, technically speaking. We should
I thought you did. My bad.
What we're actually doing here. What
You actually kind of did.
I did. What is class action, really? Then we put up 2 different subjects against each other, whether they be films, they could be series, they could be composers, they could be directors, they could be actors, they could be anything, really. We're up against each other with these custom-made categories that we've been rambling on about. And then we decide at the end which one is victorious in this battle to avoid the death penalty. That's my new way I'm going to say that. I think it's a better actually way of saying that. In terms of our courtroom moniker goes, class action. If you haven't been here before, you're here now. Let's get to it. And before we get to the meat and potatoes of the show, which is our trial, we have a couple of games we like to play. First one is the recast round. This is where we take the greatest character actor of all time, the greatest, the GOAT, the GOAT, the one and only Ed Harris, and we recast him either in a role that was already in the film, or we make up another role that actually doesn't exist and just slide him into the role. And we're going to go first with Dune Chapter 2. I said that first, and I'm going to go right ahead because I've already declared who it is. We're getting Josh Brolin out. We're putting Ed Harris in. Ed Harris is Gurney Halleck in a heartbeat.
That works. That tracks.
I mean, Ed Harris, because you know what? He's going to be on a spaceship at times. He can really be up there while everybody else is down there. And that's how it
Valid point.
So that's my right off the top. I don't think I need to explain that anymore because it seems like it makes the most sense. And that's why
it does. It does.
Really quick. That's why I say hi to the chat. Alan Smith in the chat. Kelly W. William Harold, of course. I agree with these. I don't know what categories are, but he's Empire winning all of them. Okay, that's fair.
Oh well, we can go home now because we know which ones the pool is going to pick. We don't even have to do the trial.
Yeah. Actually, I have forgotten what his picks were because I did see his crib sheet, but it was diverse. Let's say.
I also have to say there's a couple of categories I have to clarify as we go through, and that might be part of the problem here, but we'll do that. And yes, that was the other one I could do. That'd be good too. If that Ed Harris and Rebecca Ferguson, he could pull it off. He absolutely could pull it off. Ed Harris is Jessica. I'm here for it.
No,
Jarby?
it has to be Reverend Mother.
Mother.
Think about Ed Harris doing the voice.
Oh,
I'm up here. You're down there.
Ed Harris casting out the voice like that. That would be sick.
I love it.
Yeah. No, actually,
Right,
I don't actually have him as Reverend Mother, but I do have him as Jamis. Now, hear me out. He has to be in both movies, and I know I'm whitewashing here, but it's Ed Harris washing. You can't go wrong. In the first movie, he's kind of a villain. In the second movie, he is seen through the visions, like we see Jamis. Like he's actually the version of who he was supposed to be for Paul, like actually the good guy, the kind of Liam Neeson to Batman Begins, Christian Bale. And yeah, Ed Harris first as a villain, and then you see that side to him, how he will, mentor Paul Atreides. And I feel like in the second part, that role really could fly more. I don't have anything against the actor who played Jamis. I honestly can't really remember his name, but it was a character that didn't have as much depth for me as I wanted to. I don't know. Something wasn't quite there. I know Ed Harris would freaking knock it out of the park.
I 100% agree with you on that. See, look, this is civil. We're agreeing at this point. I like that. Matty, how about you for Dune?
I'm going to take one character actor out to put another one in.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking out Chris Walken as the Emperor.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, yes. The only problem I foresee with that, Matty, is like, could he pull off the being weaker? Like he looks too weak in front of
Imagine Ed Harris just whispering it deep in your ear. Your father was a weak man.
You're winning me over. You are winning me over on that one. Absolutely. That could work.
He's got the shit Weasley to kind of be like laid out on the floor, kiss the ring.
I like that. All right. Alan Smithy might have the winning one though. Ed Harris as
Shai-Hulud.
Yep.
That could win.
If we go into Children of the Dune, then that's a possibility.
Get the thumper out. Harris is coming.
I got to be honest here. I got to tell you guys one thing. Like, I'm looking forward to Dune Legacy, just like you guys are. Dune Part 3. I can't wait for it. Beyond that, though, it does get a little weird, and I don't know.
Leave it alone. Stop it at 3.
Wait, what do you mean? Dune Legacy?
After Dune 3.
Okay.
There's more books, and they get a little weird. And I don't know how tonally they would match
weird.
up.
No, but Villeneuve is not going to do them. I think he only wants to do the 3, and I don't give a shit. Like the Dune Prophecy, the TV show, not as good. It's way weaker than the movies. So only Villeneuve can do it right. I feel like.
I think just drop it at 3. Don't go into the like.
But it's going to make him almost $1 billion.
I don't care. I don't want to see Children of the Dune.
I get it. I'm just saying the studio's not going to listen to you. That's what I'm saying.
Bezos doesn't give a shit what we think.
Exactly. So I did watch the Prophecy show. It's not bad, but I agree. It's
it's fine.
It's fine.
It's not good. Yeah, it actually is fine. But the movies cast such a large shadow that it just feels like a generic sci-fi show now.
I get that to a degree. All right, let's move on to The Empire Strikes Back. We're going to cast Ed Harris in Empire Strikes Back. Matty, I'll let you go first this time since you went first last, or whatever I just said. Take the strike this back.
No, I have the same one.
Going for the easy answer, the look-alike. I see what you're doing there. I appreciate that, though. Ed Harris is a robot, basically a robot. I mean, not really, but close enough. Lobot is his name. Okay. And Jarvie, you prepared that a little bit, so go ahead. Why don't you talk about it?
I did, and you see how I fucked up because I had prepared, and now we have the same one. Fucking bullshit.
I didn't prepare, and we have the same one.
So who's the smarter one?
I mean, you could have him as, because it's such an iconic. Like, no, you can't have him as the Emperor, but you kind of. Wait, is the Emperor?
He makes a brief appearance. Yes, he makes a brief appearance.
Yes, he does.
With the when he's talking to Vader checks him out and the hologram. Yes, could do that. I decided not to put him as either of those. I did not cast him as Yoda either, Alan. Although that would be pretty cool too. Ed Harris could definitely pull off Yoda. Absolutely. I would have put him as Veers, General Veers, one Imperial who wins the battle because he's way up there in the AT-ATs and the rebels are way down there, and he shoots the hell out of them, and game over. Game over, man. I'm gonna pull it in.
Do you follow the account Veers Watch?
I do. I do.
Somewhere Veers, whoever runs the Veers Watch account is just like smiling.
Well, they're just smiling or hating it. I can't tell which it would be. Like they hate it.
Smiling because Veers got a mention in anything,
and respected. I revere Veers as a great Imperial character. So I like that. So all right, not bad. We are still civil. Here we are. We are still civil. We are like 15 minutes in. So far, we're still civil. Next up, we have Richard R. Jarvie's favorite category or game, I should say. This is Public Defender. Richard R. Jarvie, why don't you tell us what Public Defender is all about?
Yes, Public Defender is a category where one of us asks a question of the other two, or it could be a guest or a viewer, and we pretty much are not prepared for that question. It's going to be off the cuff. No, that's a different category. It's going to be a question we haven't prepared for. And public defenders, usually in movies, they are underprepared because they are overworked, underpaid. Usually, these, I don't want to say it, but kind of, these losers. You don't want that. you want a paid lawyer, but sometimes you got to go with the public defender. And just saying, that's just in movies. We might need a public defender in real life, so we don't want to badmouth them.
We might
But
need
in
one
this
at the end of
instance,
this show.
yes, sir. But in this instance, we are the public defenders who are not prepared for what's about to happen.
Absolutely. And I came up with a public defender question for you guys. I tried not to prepare it myself. I mean, it's kind of hard to do without thinking about it, but I do my best. So I'll kind of answer as well. But it is going to be an easier one, I think. It's kind of a more basic one that's inspired by these two films together. Top 3 or favorite 3 sequels of all time, like number 2 movie, not like 3, 4, 5. They have to be the number 2 direct follow-ups to iconic movies.
Easy.
Okay.
That's number 1. Avatar, The Way of Water.
Wow. No.
I mean, I just want to go to no, I don't want to go to trilogies. Because Lord of the Rings would be an obvious choice, but I don't want to go there.
I appreciate that aspect because I actually would think about Two Towers as well, but that really just more unlike a lot of things, that actually literally just feels like one story. So it feels like a sequel.
Yeah.
And I know Empire Strikes Back and Dune are also of one story, so to speak, but that goes against what the spirit of what we're trying to do here. So I agree with you. It was not.
I think mine are pretty solid.
I'm letting myself go
you wanna
last
go
because
yours?
I want you to, because I did have a little bit of chance to think about it. So I'll let you think about it some more. You got Avatar, The Way of Water, which lost the Abyss, by the way, in our show earlier.
Why? You just couldn't let it go. Okay, I got one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easy one. Aliens.
Okay. Yeah, that was definitely on my list, actually. One of the ones I thought about for sure.
Oh, and T2.
Terminator.
All Cameron movies. Who knew?
Oh. I'm shocked that Jarvie went with the Cameron trilogy.
Shout out to Eddie, who has a James Cameron podcast.
It's true. And all movies, I think we probably covered all those movies at some point or another on this podcast.
Yeah, we did. We did
Alien
versus Terminator trilogy. Yeah. That was the first episode we ever did, I think.
That might have been the first one, I think.
Uh-huh.
Definitely the first trilogy, at least at some point. We did the saga up against each other. Okay. All right. Gunner, you got a couple left?
Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Good call. Yes.
John Wick 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say it, and you two are going to sit there, smile at me, and like it. Mission Impossible 2.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I love that movie. It's not a good one, but I still love it. I know.
Well, it's not that I don't like it. It's just
that you hate it.
we realize we have a whole podcast episode on your thoughts on MI2 that we can go back and review the tape.
To be fair, that was kind of like in comparison to the other rest of the Mission Impossible, which I like more. So, yeah, Mission Impossible 2 is fine overall. I don't dislike any film in that saga.
It's like the third best film in the franchise. What are you talking about?
If it was the third film, maybe. Like if there 3 films in there, it would be the third best in the franchise. You're absolutely right. But unfortunately, there's not. There's a lot more than that.
Okay.
All right. The ones I had initially thought about, I did actually go with Jarvis' thought of Aliens. Different movie than Alien. Honestly, it's had the horror aspect versus the basically sci-fi action aspect of it. Terminator 2 is actually also one I did think of, but I'm going to go different places now. I'll go a little different. I'll go a little deeper cuts now because I'm going deep. I'm going to go with one that, again, like Matty, it's actually kind of a brave choice because people don't like it as much as nearly as much as the first one, but I like it a lot. Back to the Future Part 2.
Who doesn't like that movie?
Well, it's not that they don't like it, but a lot of people get more disappointed comparatively speaking.
What?
I love it almost as much as the first, to be honest.
Same.
I have a lot of fun with it.
Same.
There you go. Good.
I would I'd put it over 3.
We are actually,
I think me
surprisingly
too.
enough, we are all in the minority, surprisingly enough. A lot of people like 3 better than 2, but I've always been the one who advocated for 2 over 3. But
it's stupid talk.
We're off to a good start. This is going to be a doozy, right? We're on the same page.
We ain't got to the trial yet.
Let's fucking dive in.
True. And the other one I will throw out there then, because I did have, like I said, Aliens on this. Top Gun Maverick was also on my list potentially. A lot of the same type of stuff. But I'm going to go with another outlier choice, which I liked very much again. And it's actually in the chat. I want to say Alan Smithy said it. Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom. because that was the one I grew up with, and I absolutely loved it. Yes, I know it's dated. Yes, I know it hasn't aged as well, but it still brings me back to that place of
it's indie.
where I would love it. It's indie. It's indie. I love all the indie movies. So, all right, that's fair. William Harrell in the chat actually says too, Wrath of Khan. That is actually a very good choice. Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan is a good choice.
London Has Fallen.
London Has Fallen. That's that's one of the, I like that one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, bunch of. No one mentioned Too Fast, Too Furious. Which I'm
fair.
I'm not shocked at. I'm almost shocked at, I should say. And we did mention
Greatest
Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is another one that's starting out there. At that point, no one mentioned
Batman 2.
Godfather Part 2. The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight. That's the one we missed. That should have been.
I prefer Batman Begins, but Dark Knight is good. Godfather 2 is one actually I meant to. The funny thing is about Godfather 2, in my head, I forgot to answer. I forgot to say not including the Godfather 2 because I thought it would be on all of our lists.
I can't believe I forgot this one. Ocean's 12.
Ocean's 12. That's an interesting one.
It's like the weakest one, isn't it?
Oh, that's my favorite one. Of the Ocean's films, 12 is my favorite.
Speaking of that, the Ocean's 12 guy is the new writer for the Ray movie. That's
Thursday's podcast.
That's
the wrong show.
Fair enough. Oh, you know what? My coworker is absolutely right. There you go. National Treasure Book of Secrets. Because Ed Harris is in it.
That's a good one.
That's absolutely too.
Very good.
Yep.
And Bad Boys 2 is also better than the first. I will give him that as well. Bad Boys 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I do like that. That's actually my favorite Bad Boys movie. And it had a great there was a great recall to that in the last Bad Boys movie when they had I got the guy's name, the guy who dated the daughter, and he grew up and he was like with the daughter.
Oh, Reggie.
Comes back. Reggie. That's right. Reggie.
He comes back as he's a Marine.
He's a Marine. Like has action sequences. Like, holy shit, who is this guy? But
who the fuck is Reggie?
Who the fuck is Reggie, man? Oh man.
He killed like 15 people in the house. He can grill the fucking chicken.
Yep. That was an awesome scene.
So good. All right, we're still kind of civil. I'll throw it out there. We are ready for the trial, I guess, now then. Are we ready for this?
I'm ready.
Hear ye. All rise.
All rise for the Honorable Judge Wheel.
Oh, good one.
You already take the names off.
Yes, I am going to go ahead and do the thing there. I get off the comments. This is our wheel. We are going to do 5 of these categories. We have on the list a better hero, better villain, better music, better action, better ending twist, better visuals, better supporting cast, better story, better sound, and fist pump moments.
Matty's so nervous.
He is really nervous. Look at him like, biting his hand at this point. What category do you not want to go up, Matty?
Better ending twist.
Better ending twist. Okay. Jarvis, do you have a category you don't want to come up?
Nah.
You're comfortable with everything.
Jarvis, good to go.
I know what's gonna happen.
You accepted it? Okay.
You've said this. We've said this before where we've had a couple of upsets.
That is true. All right, guys. You in the chat, if you're watching, you can definitely play along and tell us what you guys think. And we'll see what happens. Because away we go with the first spin.
Hello. Oh, yeah, we're fucked.
Right off the top, they got the one that at some point or other. It's the one I definitely wanted in there. We have the score to The Empire Strikes Back versus the score to Dune Chapter 2. And okay, I'm going first. I got 2 words for you. John Williams. GOAT. I got 2 more words for you. The Imperial March. I got 2 more words for you. Yoda's theme. I got 2 more words for you. Absolutely iconic. I got, as far as Zimmer's score goes, it's good. It's good.
Give me reasoning. You cannot say iconic and better.
Imperial March.
Yes. So elaborate.
Objection, testifying.
Well-known score of all time. It is. If you think of evil, you played the Imperial March. It has become the theme of evil. Yoda's theme, the Force theme, it gets hummed all the time everywhere. Dune is more of a sound than it is a score, to be completely honest with you. I'm watching Dune again. It's not music, really. It's more like just like pulsating things. Does it work for it? Absolutely. But that is not a score when you compare it to the greatest man of all time who ever played the game. There's John Williams up here. There's Hans Zimmer somewhere down here. You could say, I love Hans Zimmer. There it is. Asteroid Field, best track in the flick. My coworker Ryan Carmichael, Empire Strikes Back, though he never saw Dune. I'm okay with that. There is no higher. I will rebut if you need to, but I don't think I need to say any more about that. But go ahead. You can try to argue against me.
Actually, you made some good points. At first, you just said iconic, legacy, and better, but you actually had good points. So fair.
I don't need to hold you in contempt of court yet.
All right, so I'm keeping score as well because I think PLD is gonna fuck us.
Yep.
So all right,
Matty, and that's why I said it. You said fuck us, so that's why I've been saying you're a traitor the entire time. Just so
you don't know what way I'm going yet.
You said fuck us.
I know I did, but that was a slip of the tongue.
And Matty agreed to it.
I'm on this.
Dude, that would be awesome if me and Matty just teamed. I mean, wait, I'll text you.
I'm on the side of justice, science, facts, and logic.
All right. Well, Matty, you take it away.
Okay. How do I put this? Because this is a prelude to a matchup I want to do on this channel one day of Williams versus Zimmer. Like that, it has to happen. So I'm going to come at this from a musician and a producer's perspective. Hans Zimmer's score is more creative than John Williams. Now, Paul, before you go off on one, hear me out. Get that off the screen. Listen.
John Williams.
This is Matty's time, PLD.
While John Williams is the GOAT, there is no contest, no contestation of that ever. While he does use different songwriting and composition techniques, at the end of the day, he does still just use a standard orchestra. He uses a film orchestra. Hans Zimmer had to create instruments, create sounds that did not exist to create the Dune soundtrack, to create the score. He had to create things essentially out of thin air, whereas John Williams he had an orchestra. He created different compositions that had never been done before, but to use actual sounds and instruments that have never ever been used before, but the category
never been used before.
The category is better music, not more creative music. And I'm sorry, there is not a single track, not a single note that holds up to the Imperial March. Okay. Not one. Okay. If I take it down to pure replay value, it's Empire. Empire takes it. CPOD, this is what I'm saying. Like, let the man speak.
Go ahead, Richard Eric Jarvie. What is your?
Yeah, no. Actually, Matty said a very similar point to mine. Is that John Williams does what he does in the best possible way, and this is a John Williams score through and through. Hans Zimmer is more of an experimentalist. I feel like he's kind of bored at this moment of his career because he's done so much that he's kind of like, I'm gonna go into tones and sounds and creating new weird alien-like music. I gotta agree that it's more atmospheric than it's actually melodic, and to its detriment, I think Dune Part 1 score was better. It had more of a theme to it. The second part was kind of repeating the same beats that the first one did. And I was listening to the score today. Without the movie, I don't know, usually I like to listen to scores and it kind of reminds me of the movie. This one kind of even annoyed me a little today. But like Matty said something really, what I said before, John Williams just does his thing, whereas Hans Zimmer experiments and tries new things. But I will give this to fucking John Williams because it it truly is the better theme, and I'm trying to stay away from more iconic, more memorable. But I mean, Imperial March, Yoda theme, Han and Leia theme. It goes on, and it's like it is what John Williams does, and he's done it with the Disney trilogy as well. It feels Star Wars, but it's still new. It's still different. He finds new ways to go to. Whereas Hans Zimmer in this one, I feel like kind of is maybe a bit too experimental. But yeah, I do love Hans Zimmer's score. So I think he won the Oscar for the first one. Deservedly
He's
so.
not allowed to be up to this one because of that.
Yeah.
Really?
True.
Oh, wow.
He
Okay.
he couldn't be nominated, which is whatever. I will say, let me just say real quick. The only thing I say, you mentioned not wanting to use the word iconic, and I will agree with you. That's an overused adjective, and I even overuse it. I'll fully admit that. But in this case, it absolutely fits. And secondly, I wish I had one more argument against Hans Zimmer, but I couldn't remember what it was. I remember watching the movie, and there was something that's going on, and it sounded like a different score to me. Like there was, please, not that John Williams hasn't plagiarized himself. I know that kind of has happened, but like Zimmer totally plagiarized something like that. I was like, I just watched some other movie that Zimmer did, and it was exactly what it was. I don't have the defense to say because I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember listening to it going, this is not Dune. This is whatever it was at this point.
Objection, badgering the witness.
Badgering the witness. Stop, he's already dead. All right, let's move on then to our next segment then. How would we do it?
All right, let's get the wheel back up.
Get this out here. Wheel back up. We have one less on the wheel now. I'm glad we got that. That was what I wanted to come up most. So honestly, I'm not going to lie. Let's move on.
9 left. I mean, no, 4 left. But 9.
9.
Oh, so we got Matty's one.
Least favorite one. Matty's least favorite one. Okay, there we go. Let's get rid of this one now. Matty, do you want to start or go last on this one?
I'll start. Let's just get it out of the way. I am your father. End of discussion. I don't hear anyone walking around saying grandfather or hello cousin.
Yes.
Wait, wasn't there a parental twist in Dune as well?
Yeah, they found out that his mom's a Harkonnen.
Yeah.
Jessica's a Harkonnen.
Yeah.
But even if the story actually could have come, the Dune story came first, so I will give it that credit.
Yes, it did.
But which one is more impactful?
We're talking about the movies here.
I'm saying movie, and we're talking about the movie. You know what? In that case too, when that is what it comes down to it, the Empire Strikes movies did come back before the Dune adaptation did, even the Lynch adaptation. Honestly, when we talk about that one. But at the end of the day, I agree with you, Charlie. I mean, Gardner. I'm sorry, Matty. I'm sure that they were good twists. They were fine twists, but it all felt secondary to what is considered the greatest twist of all time. Maybe the only ones that can come close is what I wish had been maybe a good Public Defender. What twists have like resonated like that? Maybe Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Resonated like that at some point. Maybe Usual Suspects. The ending twist there resonated like that to a degree. But I mean, Luke, I am your father. Or sorry, actually,
well, Luke is playing there with his hand.
Oh my God, PLD, that's your favorite movie.
I know, and I went to the what's that called, the Mandela Effect version of it. No, I am your father. It's just, I mean, have you people? I mean, it's lampooned, it's mentioned. It's actually considered almost passé now because of Empire Strikes Back. Like you can't go any further with that at this point. So it's gotta be.
Let's talk about the moment as well. Like Luke is laying there with his hand cut off. The same thing that happened to Anakin. Like it's poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah,
it's the greatest twist in cinematic history.
I agree.
What do you consider the twist in Dune Part 2? That's my question to you.
I would say finding out that Jessica is a Harkonnen, because
that's not an ending twist. Like we're talking ending twist, right? So it has to be.
Twist.
Oh, the ending twist. I would say him asking the Princess Orlan to marry him.
Yeah, the ending twist honestly actually impacts on one of my questions later on, which here's the preview for it. We don't have to talk about it now, but there's a preview for it. It comes up. Paul becoming a bad guy, basically. Kind of. Not even becoming a bad guy, but like Paul turning his back on Zendaya, basically, and becoming the villain. I'm the villain of this story now, kind of thing. Dude.
Actually, well, he kind of is and isn't, but that's in the movie. He more comes close to being a villain. In the book, actually, he doesn't. But yeah, we're talking movies, so.
Yeah, that's true. In the book, you have to, they kind of moved up the villainous part of him a little bit sooner. The book does it that way for sure. I will say that the fact that we don't even know, we necessarily know, we had to ask the question as what the twist is, which is like,
no, but there's,
we know.
Like, no, I actually I do know. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I do know what the twist is because you were talking about the Rebecca Ferguson twist, but I think the ending twist is how Paul pretty much plays the entire planet to his advantage. Right. It's a political twist that he does the speech, right? He becomes the Lisan al-Ghaib, and then he fucking takes the throne and kills, all the Harkonnens. But I think the twist is, on one part, the Princess Irulan one, and the fact that he pretty much becomes the emperor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's exactly my point. It's not clear cut. Like Matty thought one way, you're kind of like having to. What is it? What is it? Did we have to ask about the Empire twist?
No.
Did anybody have to ask about what the Empire twist was?
There could be also the twist at the end of Dune Part 2 where he's like, tell the other houses if anyone comes to attack them, we'll use our atomics on all the spice. Basically, him saying, yes, if they come any closer, we'll blow up all the spice.
Right.
The twist is very intricate. It's complex. It's a political move. It's very complex.
But as far as best twist goes, it's the one to me made the most impact on the movie itself. That was good twist. I'm not saying it was a bad day. All those were good twists. But like, you don't come out of the screening and go and say like, when you come out of the screening for Empire Strikes Back, being like, holy shit, Vader's his father. F this. This movie kind of like, oh, that was kind of cool. I didn't expect that.
I'm not going to kick your ass for spoiling it for me.
All that. And yes, William Harrell, challenging. I did not say final answer until I changed it. I actually literally changed it before they called me out on it. So by Schmodown rules, as a judge, I am right.
Jarvie, what was your?
Yeah, no. The reason why I'm asking is that the twists are fundamentally so different. One is an emotional twist on Empire's part, and Dune Part 2 is kind of a political power move. So they're way different. Emotionally, no, I'm your father resonates. It resonated with the generation. I mean, this one, people have read the book. It wasn't that much of a twist because you knew something was coming.
Right.
If you didn't know, I'd say it still was a great twist. But it's weird because you're kind of comparing things that are not comparable in a way.
Kind of like these movies.
But in a way, I do agree. Yeah. But yeah, I'm also going with Empire. The purity, the simplicity of it, and yeah, it still hits. Even though you watch that movie for the 100th time, you're still like, you feel the moment and how Luke or Mark Hamill acts that moment as well. I mean, there's not a lot of great acting in Star Wars. That was a cool moment.
It was a very cool moment. I agree. And I will actually throw it out there too. You mentioned like political versus emotional. Empire is actually also somewhat political because that's the time we learned that.
But not that twist.
No, it was though, because that's also the twist where we learn that Darth Vader wants to overthrow the Emperor. Until then, Vader has kind of always been the lapdog. He offers Luke. He offers Luke. He's like, we can overthrow.
That's true.
Him.
That's true.
Rule the galaxy as father and son. So that was another so it's a political and emotional twist in one.
But does he mean that, or is he just saying that to get Luke to come?
I think he absolutely means that. He's hated Palpatine forever. It's the rule too.
Sure.
It's always been the way it is.
I think at that point, Darth Vader isn't redeemed. So at that point, he just wants Luke to help him overthrow the Emperor, not to rule as father. I think he's just using Luke at that moment. Later, he kind of, does it for.
It's always kind of there in the background. It's always there, like floating around. That's what makes the redemption eventually come. That's what makes the redemption come eventually. That's what it is. If it wasn't there, he couldn't have been redeemed. So,
sure, but the spark wasn't lit yet.
All right, let's move on then to the next spin of the wheel. I mean, it's over here. All right, 2 down.
That's the third one, or
that was category 2. This is now category 3.
This is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt. I can tell.
Ooh.
Their sound design.
Okay, I fully admit this is one I struggled with in terms of what I didn't want this one. This is one I didn't want to come up because it's a very difficult battle. This one is.
Yeah. Do you want to go first or?
I don't know. Actually, I'd like to go. I think I would not like to go first in this one. Matty, let's let you go first on this one.
The sound design in Dune Part 2 is such an integral part of the film. You hear the sound of Shai Hulud coming through the sound of the thumper, just the roar of the crowd of the Fremen. There's cool little moments in Empire Strikes Back, like Cloud City coming through the clouds and hearing all the speeders come through, the droids and the trash, and like in the whatever that is, not the interrogation room, but where they throw all the droid parts and everything there, just all like the noise and the conversation going on in there. But I don't feel like the sound design is as embedded into Empire as it is into, like, we even mentioned it on when we were talking about the score. It was like Hans Zimmer wrote this stuff to be a lived in part of the film. So in that instance, I got to give this one to Dune.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Do you mind if I go second?
Yeah, go.
No, I will. I just before Ryan in the chat, he wants to say he's not. I mean, what is sound design? Some film people might not, or non-film nerds might not know that. Sound design basically is the practice of designing the entire sonic landscape, as it were, all at the different sounds. How like it could be a robot, it could be just background noise, it could be a humming, it could actually incorporate music, or in Hans Zimmer's case, more of the kind of vibrating sounds. It could be the lack of music. It could be the fighting sounds. Like sometimes they're echo. It's something that you don't really notice unless you really look for it. Because if you actually a good sound design, you kind of don't even think about it until afterwards, because it's just kind of there. It envelops that world. But some of them have been used more to others. Some have been used better than others have been, for sure. But with that in mind, Jarby, go ahead, shoot out what your thinking is.
I had the exact same struggle as Matty did. Like Star Wars, just the sounds, like X-wings flying, droids moving, lightsabers igniting. I mean, these are so embedded in us. Darth Vader breathing. But the reason why I'm also veering towards Dune Part 2 is there is so much more nuance in it. I mean, Star Wars is a great sci-fi sound design, but it's all like, it's up on the surface. It's all out there. It's in your face. Dune Part 2, not only is the sound, like both the movies start with like, just like a fucking voice going straight fucking through you. And it sets the tone for the movie. And it's not just like hard, like deep bass sounds. There's so much silence that gets incorporated in the right way. And that is also an integral part of the sound design, I feel like. When the voice is used, like every time you feel it. And when there's like the start of Dune Part 2, when the Sardaukar kind of flying towards the cliff, like going up. Kind of in silence. There's nothing. There's no boosters. There's nothing. They're just floating up there. And I feel like that silence, that nuance, and also the big sounds, the explosions, the fight, the hand-to-hand combat fight scenes, not talking visuals, just the sound. Also, there's no music during those fights. It's just brutal hand-to-hand combat, and it's just sound design. You just feel the moments. So it did hurt me to not give this to Star Wars because the sound design in Star Wars, but it's in all those three movies. It's great. I feel like there's nuance that gives it to Dune.
Here's the question I have, honestly. When I did struggle with this one. This is one I struggled most with, probably, to be honest with you. Because Dune, you're correct, the Dune sound design is phenomenal. But we are talking about the specific movie. I think if we're talking about the general, like Dune and Dune 2 and then Star Wars Saga, like I think I'd have to immediately give it to Star Wars because you have lightsabers, you have the TIE fighter screams, you have everything else. But specifically designed for Empire Strikes Back, that's when it becomes a little more challenging for me specifically. Because we already had lightsabers from Episode 4. We already had the X-Wings or whatever. At the same time, I can't deny the absolute creative genius that Ben Burtt is. He designed sound for film because it is. I mean, you look at some of the stuff he did, like the Dagobah Animal Life. You know what that was? That was like a bunch of like raccoons in a bathtub.
Yeah, I thought it was like badgers or foxes or something like that.
It was something to that effect. It was like the guy just like takes these weird ass sounds, and like we don't even think about it. Like we don't even think about it, but like he created like a sea otter who was like that was the tauntaun. He takes animal voices. Like the creativity behind it is just it made when I read about the creativity behind it, I started thinking about all the sound designs that I don't notice. Dunes are very noticeable sound effects. It was very noticeable sound design. I don't think Empire, it's almost like we take it for granted. But it's in a galaxy far, far away and just hear these aliens. Like, but then when like they hit and you like look into what he did to do them, you're like kind of like, wow, I never even thought about some of this stuff. And then in turns includes the music. I get that. The lightsaber battles are all you talk about the battles, the lightsaber battles, the Hoth battles, the soaring of the snow speeders going on, the humming of those snow speeders, like lifting of the rocks, like the clicking of the rocks together, the Force visions. There's a lot of incorporating the music. I still can't not give it to Empire overall. As far as creativity, they are neck. I will give that they are neck and neck. And I almost gave this to Dune. I almost did, but I can't look at somebody putting raccoons in a bathtub as just to make a wildlife in a movie.
We're not promoting animal cruelty on this show.
How can I not reward the you're right. You're absolutely right about that. But how can I not give it that like kind of ingenious like thought process? How can I not reward that?
I mean, a question. It's not a question about how creatively the sounds were made. It's about the end product. Like they could have been made in underwater with whales, whatever. But we're talking and I'm sure in Dune Part 2 there's a lot of just computer generated sounds. I'm sure there's a lot of because Villeneuve loves practical effects, and I'm guessing it's the same in sound design. But there's got to be a lot of so what do you call it? It's not CGI, it's audio visual effects. You know what I mean? But pretty much, yeah. Your reasoning at the moment was kind of the way they made those sounds, but we got to talk about the ready product. Not that they made it in such a creative way.
That's where I would argue, though. The fact is that, again, it comes down to sometimes you don't even notice it because it makes like you don't even notice the sound design as far as because you're so enveloped into the sound design. I watched Dune and I actually do notice the sound design as far as that goes.
But I think you're supposed to. In this part, you're supposed to.
Maybe you are, but I don't think you are at this point because they think about these like new and inventive things they're doing and they just feel like they're already part of the world that they're created in. And that to me makes it more enveloping into the world. I'm not stopping my movie to go, oh, that's a cool sound. And it's like, I just think about this is Empire Strikes Back. And then I look into it, I'm like, holy shit, look what he did for this freaking thing. They created this whole library of stuff. And I can't not give it to Star Wars at that point.
It's like the Dune stuff is more immersive than Empire's.
And I know it's a decade that like the time comes into play because one is a movie from the 80s, right? It's 1980.
Yes, 1980. Yep.
So you can say 80s. The other one is 21st century movie. So yeah, time comes. It is more immersive, but are we supposed to hold it against that movie is older and the other one's newer? I don't think we are. We're supposed to grade them at the moment.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I say, though, to me, that Star Wars did much more with less on that sound design. They had to be much more creative to get the same type of sound immersive effect as it's much easier to do it nowadays, to be completely honest with you. So with that in mind, if it's neck and neck, I got to give it to more, which is more creative about a way to doing it. So
yeah, the thing about Star Wars is, and like, I love the sound. I love that, like, everything has like a certain, like, you know what the Millennium Falcon sounds like, you know what the TIE Fighters sound like, but it's not as original like the sounds. I don't know. It feels like it could be Star Trek movies also have very cool sound designs. Dune ones feel different. Like there's nothing like the ornithopters making a weird.
I love
It's
that
not a
sound.
helicopter.
I
It's
love
something
that
totally
sound.
different.
Well, what you're saying is it actually goes to me because take the sounds away and you heard it for the first time. They've been with you all your life. The Millennium Falcon flying has been with you all your life, so it sounds commonplace to you. It didn't when you first heard it. It doesn't when you first hear them.
Yeah, but Dune, when you first but it well, it's tough to say how it sounded to me in the first time I watched it, but
because if you go back to people who were watching it for the first time, they were
yeah, but that's kind of unfair, right? Because you watch one movie 5 times, the other one 500. That's you got to take that out. You got to try and be objective about it.
I'm not talking about it. I'm countering your argument that they feel commonplace because you watch them 500 times. Like, so you're giving, it's like a recency bias towards Dune because you're like, oh my God, I've never heard this before, when you would have been the same way with Empire Strikes Back if you would just watch it just now.
I don't agree. Yeah, and this is kind of now where subjectivity comes into play.
Yeah.
I don't think I reacted to Empire Strikes Back the same way I did to Dune Part 2 when I first saw it. And you said it right. I think you maybe were not supposed to notice the sound design, but I think Dune is a different beast. It relies as much on sound as it does on visual effects, and you're supposed to feel it. You're supposed to like appreciate it more and let it take you out of the movie a bit. Whereas Star Wars, it doesn't. It's part of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're not gonna obviously change each other's mind, but that's okay. So we're actually being a little civil. I'm actually surprised. So let's move this on quickly before it devaluates or devolves into it. We got next our next category. Let's see what we got here. 2 more categories left.
Better story.
Better story. Okay.
Sorry?
I'm gonna let you start with this one.
Me?
Yeah, you're starting.
Sorry, my sound cut off for a moment. Better story. I'm trying to find my notes. All right.
Podcast, Redwood.
Yeah, well, there's also like different levels because one is a complete story, one completes a story, one is a midsection of the story. I mean, and they're so different in the same way as the ending twist was. Star Wars, I don't know, it's kind of a straightforward, simpler story. Whereas Dune Part 2, not saying it's one of the most complex stories of the Star Wars movies, but Dune Part 2 has so many different moving parts to it. What makes Empire's story so interesting, and I'd even say the best of the Star Wars episodes ever, is that this kind of is the failure of a hero's journey. Luke pretty much does fail in his own way, but that is a great teaching moment. And that is an awesome point. If he didn't fail in the second one, he probably wouldn't have become the Jedi that he did in Return of the Jedi. So this definitely is the most original of the Star Wars stories. Also that there's no big Death Star to blow up. There's no base attack. They're pretty much on the run. Luke has to face Vader, loses. I mean, and I remember the way it did hit me. It's like the heroes are pretty much, they've lost. This is not a happy ending type of movie. And to this day, I think it's really original and different for a Star Wars movie. Whereas Dune Part 2, that movie, even though Empire Strikes Back goes really dark, Dune's second part gets really dark and even plays with turning the hero into a villain a bit. So yeah, this is it's kind of a matter of vibe and genre as well. Like Star Wars is a more, family-oriented story. Dune Part 2 can do so many different things because, I mean, it's PG-13, is it?
Empire?
Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2?
Empire, I'm guessing they're
PG,
like,
because Empire didn't, because PG-13 didn't exist until 84. So
yeah.
So I think Dune was good. Let me find out.
So yeah, this for me was one of the most difficult ones, but this is still the reason why I'm giving this to Empire is because it feels so much more different from the other episodes of the Star Wars movies. It does work on its own as a standalone. As Dune Part 2 is, a much needed continuation of the story. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's dark story versus a bit more family oriented story.
Okay.
But where I put in the separator is the Star Wars story is the most unique one of the Star Wars movies.
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you that. Matt, do you mind if I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I will say I agree. I want to give Dune its credit in that Star Wars does take a lot from the Dune story.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dune was one of those ingredients that George Lucas kind of came up with and mixed together with Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers to make that Star Wars cake, as it were. But I will say that Dune 2 the Dune story is also infinitely more complex, and I agree with that as well. However, I almost think I want to say too complex. It's almost over complex, over complicated, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because I still love the story. But as far as you're comparing the two together, Empire Strikes Back does have that fairy tale like myth. Everybody can understand it. Everybody can love it. Dune is like an adult story. Empire Strikes Back is like a everyone story. So what's better? I guess your miles may vary, but I think the Empire Strikes Back story is a little more universal. You get a little more of that black and white kind of with gray, but kind of like understanding of what this plot is and where we're going with it. Simplistic doesn't necessarily mean bad. And in this case, simpler is actually very nice. And like you mentioned before, yes, we do have Paul's turn, but I got to be honest with you here. And this might ruffle some feathers. That's for people who love Dune. I do like Dune. I think that Paul's turn isn't as well. Yeah, the turn to the dark side, as it were, isn't as well displayed or executed as people think it is. So it does seem sometimes like I know the whole. We go into one of our other favorite movies, Revenge of the Sith, that people will talk about Anakin's fall being too quick and too dirty and too easy. I kind of watching Dune Chapter 2. I kind of felt like it kind of sort of almost not came out of nowhere, but it kind of felt like he was. I am not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And when he eventually did do what he did, it felt a little bit. I didn't buy that he had gotten there yet, to be honest with you. It didn't ruin it for me. I still thought it was overall well done. But I think comparatively speaking, I don't think it was that perfect of a twisted turn, which hurts the story for me a little bit. In Empire, you have the boyhood hero who has made his first. They won their first battle in episode 4. He is now trying to become a rebel leader. He's trying to be the hero that everybody needs him to be. He's trying to become the first new Jedi in forever. He's trying to save his friends, save his family, save everything. And he makes mistakes. He has the impetuousness of youth. He has that Skywalker impulsivity. He makes these mistakes and he pays for them. But not only that, you also have these great storylines. I mean, Dune 2 has some cool storylines. You could say that the Harkonnen storyline is kind of with Austin Butler and Stellan Skarsgård. That's kind of cool. But I think the Han and Leia bit is actually better too. You have the Han and Leia storyline. You have the Han and Lando storyline. All like these other little bits and pieces that kind of turn together. And at the end of the day, it's a greater whole of soup. We're eating a lot of food metaphors today. I'm sorry about that. You're making you hungry, I'm sure. But I think that the story for Dune 2 is great, but it's almost overcomplicated. I feel like there's a lot going on, and I'm not saying you can't understand it because it's not. It's understandable, but it's not as universal and not as it's a little too much for the story itself. Whereas Empire simpler, a little better.
It's almost as Dune's strength is its weakness in that sense.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And I kind of hate. I absolutely hate giving this to Empire, but I have to because I feel like Dune's story is so fucking complex and well done. And one thing about complex movies is sometimes, I mean, there's many movies where I guess all three of us have we're watching the thing, the story unfolds, it gets too difficult. We're like, okay, we're not following that one. okay, but it kind of wraps up in a way that you're still like on board, even though you're not understanding the little details of it. That's also like a thing of, maybe I'm being too complicated at the moment, I don't know. Is my point is, even if the movie is overly complicated, you're still on board when the big moments happen and you're kind of with it. With this one, it is. I'm sure there's things I'm not putting together in Dune Part 2, but I'm still like, oh, this wrapped up in an awesome way.
A lot of people would love it because it is more complex and it's more adult. As we're growing up, people who grew up with Star Wars, we've seen them. People are looking for more adult Star Wars in a way. This is kind of more adult Star Wars. Why I think it's partially why it's been so successful amongst like Star Wars fans. And before we get to you, Matty, I know you're sitting there. I just want to throw Ryan. Luke lost a battle to win the war. I don't believe he failed. Had he failed, he would return to the dark side.
That's pretty much what I meant.
Better for it. Yeah.
The failure is necessary in that part, but I still think I'd call it a failure because in his eyes, he did fail, right? He went out there to do something different. He didn't go out there to fail.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's true too. That's the best storylines that Luke and Leia made out in A New Hope, and we find out they're brother and sister. No, but see, that's it. We'll find it. Don't find out until Jedi, so that does not work against. He doesn't find out he sees his sister until Return of the Jedi. So
no, they didn't. They didn't make up in A New Hope. They made out in Empire. The beginning.
Right, she kissed him on the cheek in A New Hope, and then they kissed more full on in Empire.
Yeah.
Right. So does not count as far as our story beat against it in this particular case and Empire. All right, Matty, go ahead. Throw it out there for your best story.
So I will respectfully disagree with you both.
No, thank you. I'm actually glad that you're going that way.
To me, there are many instances of a hero coming back from a failure. We have seen this. It is the hero's journey for the hero to learn, to make the mistake, have the failure, and then come back from it to rise again, like a phoenix from the ashes, become stronger, and then overcome the evil and overcome the challenges that he had to face. The whole thing about the reason, what got a bigger fist pump? Luke beating Vader or Vader throwing the Emperor down into the pit?
This is not fist pump, though.
I'm getting to that.
Good point.
Okay.
What gets more of a reaction? Coming back from a failure or coming back from a fall? Because in Dune Part 2, Paul was never written to be the hero. Frank Herbert has said as much. He never, and Denis even said as well, he never wrote Paul to be a hero. It was a complete mischaracterization for people to think that in Dune Part 1 that Paul was going to be a hero. He was written as this false messiah, which we now know that the Bene Gesserit, this group of witches, essentially put him in place. They had Feyd-Rautha there as a backup in case it didn't work out with Paul, to the point where his own mother is behind it. His own mother is in on the bit to be like, you're nothing. You're just a boy put in this position by us. You have your power because of us. Then you go back to the first one. You back to Dune Part 2. The moment that he has with Leto, his father, where he's like, what if it doesn't come to me? What if I'm not supposed to be this big leader? What if I'm not supposed to be this grand leader, this whatever you expect me to be? And then Leto just says, well, you'll still be my son. And he loses track of that. He just it's like his father's death triggers it in him that he's just like, well, now I have to be this. I have to rise and become the leader of the Fremen and take out the Empire for my dad. But that gets twisted by this religion. It gets twisted by the Reverend Mothers. It gets twisted by the Bene Gesserit, to the point where you're just like, you are watching the fall happen before your eyes. And it's almost like with Anakin, we didn't get to, I disagree in that I think that it did get played out a lot more from the first film. With Anakin, we knew it was coming. We knew going into the prequels, as soon as we saw Anakin there, we were like, that kid's going to grow up to kill everyone. Someone who's
a good boy. He was such a good boy. I'm sorry.
He was such a good boy. And so was Paul. Paul was just sitting there. He just wanted to, learn how to fight with Gurney. He just wanted to learn how to fly the Nartho. I can't remember the name of the ships. The little fluttery
Ornithopters.
Ornithopters. Thank you. He's sitting there,
Jason Momoa.
bro, hanging out with Jason Momoa. Like, he was a good kid. And it's the equal story of destiny, right? But that gets into the better hero topic, so I'm going to drop it at that. I just saying, seeing a hero fall is more of impactful to me than seeing a hero fail, because I know the hero is going to come back.
However, in best story, you kind of said it best. Herbert said it best, and then the movie kind of followed in a way too. The fact that it didn't ring to people that he was a villain at the end of the story, isn't that a failure of the story to is that a failure story to communicate what its story is?
It's a failure of Dune Part 1, but I think it's an absolute success in Dune Part 2 when we see that Paul is this fake messiah, that he is not what we thought him to be at all.
But
I think Dune 2...
I think the initial reaction wasn't that. For like film bros and stuff like that, I think they get it. But I think a lot of the casuals, there's still a lot of people out there who are like, Paul, they see Paul holding up the sword, leading the people, defeating the bad guy.
That's how it's supposed to be at this point. He's not the villain yet. You said it yourself. They kind of, with the movie, they did it too soon. And it's not supposed to be a full-blown villain yet.
But they're trying, but the movie, that's what the movie did. And if the movie is going to make him a villain like that in the movie, then the lead up to it doesn't work as well. So that means the story fails a little bit comparatively. Whereas what is Empire Strikes Back failure story-wise?
I don't think there's failures in either movies. It's which one is better.
I'm talking about comparatively speaking. There's an argument to be made against Dune at that point. I've never had yet to hear an argument against Empire Strikes Back story. Anything about it, really, honestly. That's what I'm going with.
I think it's what you said, and what I said is its strength and a weakness is that Empire's story is kind of simple, straightforward story, whereas Dune has so many moving parts that it has to juggle, and he kind of manages to fit it all into that movie.
In terms of this battle, it collapses under the weight. Does it really overall in general collapse? No, it does its job well. But I'm talking about when we're talking about such heights of story and we're talking about such heights of possibilities, somebody's got to lose. In that case, that's where it collapses just enough to be underneath Empire in my eyes at that point. But if Matty wants to say your final is Dune, that's fine.
It's Dune.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm changing my answer to Dune. Thank you, Matty.
You son of a bitch. The pen is already clear. I already wrote down the score.
Are you really? You changing it?
No, we've been doing this. This is the best part. When someone sways you, we can change our vote, and we've done that many times before. And I think Matty's reasoning was great.
Fine.
And I have to agree.
Even though you agreed with me the whole time.
I did. This is the thing. These are two fucking great stories, but you got to pick the better one.
Right. So I bet you agreed with me the whole time that this was the better one, and then now you're changing it though. Even though you said the simplistic story is the better one, the overcomplicated one has a miss in it, has a miss that Empire doesn't have. So what's the argument that Dune's a better story?
No, I don't agree that there's a miss. I think the fact that I think the fact that we're questioning it is an even better type of storytelling. It's you can talk about these things. You can analyze. In your opinion, he wasn't the villain. Oh, but I think he was. That's great fucking storytelling. He makes you question things. It is not as straightforward. Whereas Empire Strikes Back, you know who's a villain, you know who's a hero. This gives you leeway. People are shades of gray, not good and bad. I just thought Matty's reasoning was good. This is not a trick play by me and Matty.
You are my still guy, Joey. You are my still guy.
Fine. Okay. Fine. You're both wrong, but it's fine. Okay. Let's move on to the final category. I got some freaking names out here. Fine. Six is in. This is like the Chiefs and Bills all over again. All right. Final category. How are they going to screw me now?
Oh!
Better visuals.
This might be signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, I know what you guys are picking, but
No, go ahead, Jarvie. Hit us first.
no, this is the most clear cut Dune, and I know this is. It is unfair to say because one movie was made in the 80s and the other one was a year ago, but
Made in the 70s, by the way. Came out in the 80s. So made in the 70s.
Yeah, true. But we're not comparing these movies in a time vault. We're talking right now. And Dune Part 2, I think, is going to stand, and this is me thinking, I know it's not objectivity, but Dune uses so many practical effects. The way it's shot, the way lighting is used. Sure, there's CGI in it, but pretty like all the sand scenes, they're on actual sand. The lighting is always natural that they're using. They're not doing CGI lights, whatever. And you feel the world. And I'd say, as far as sci-fi movies go, I think Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2 are sci-fi movies with the best visual effects ever. Like ever. They are the best. They are the peak. Because, and not even Nolan movies, not even James Cameron movies, not even Avatar movies, the fact that they're using practical effects to such a high level is groundbreaking, and this is going to stand the test of time. And I know Star Wars did a revolutionary thing with its effects. Yes, but compared to Dune, no go.
Matty?
I think it would be best if you went, because I know where you're going to go and I want to be the tiebreaker.
Fine. Hands down, Empire Strikes Back in a heartbeat. Dune looks great, but I mean, like, the visual effects are good. But honestly, and the cinematography is good, but there's like a film over the entire movie for me. It's this way that it's a choice that Denis Villeneuve made.
What do you mean, film?
The grain of the film, like this, it's this color grading that they use, which kind of makes everything look the same. I felt like almost everything looked the same, comparatively speaking. There wasn't as much difference between the colors.
Gildy Prime. That's oh, sorry, I'm breaking into your conversation. I actually forgot to mention that the Colosseum fight, because most of the story is happening on Arrakis. It's supposed to be gradient. It's supposed to be a bit yellowy, very deserty. We go to a different planet, completely different feel, and revolutionary use of camera and lighting, the way they inverted sort of I can't remember what it's called, something...
Infrared.
Yes, infrared cameras. One scene where the Baron Harkonnen goes to the Colosseum. At first, you see natural colors. The switch, when he goes in the sunlight, infrared cameras, the picture changes. I mean, it's seamless, it's perfect, and it's just the peak of CGI, visual effects. And it's not CGI, it's actual practical effects.
Awful choices. I'm sorry. Empire Revolution, part of the Department of Revolution of Visual Eyes. It looks just as good today as it did in 1980. It was made in 1979. And again, you don't agree with this argument. I get it. Made in the 70s, but the creativity they used at that time, when they couldn't rely on computers, they couldn't rely on any kind of graphics. You might say they used practical effects, but there's a lot of computer stuff that was put over the top of Dune to help it out. Empire had to use by the blood, sweat, and tears of their people. The practical effects, they made Yoda believable. They made a Muppet into a character. Long before Gollum and Lord of the Rings, before anything else, a Muppet became a puppet. A freaking hand puppet generally became a believable character. Not only a believable character, one of the greatest characters in the history of film. And it was a puppet. That alone, the idea of Yoda being there, takes the cake for me. Everything else, like, I feel like a lot of like the Dune stuff I saw, it was good, but like it kind of felt like it came from somewhere else. It kind of seemed like it didn't seem very original to me at all. It felt like the sandworms were the Sarlacc pit done a little bit better, done a little more smoother, a little more.
Funny thing is, it actually is the other way around, because Star Wars took that from
but
that.
We're talking the movie. I'm talking.
I know. But that's
and
just
I get it. I know it is very ironic. I completely understand that, and it is. You're absolutely right. And I said that before on the show, in this episode, that Star Wars took a lot from Dune, absolutely. But as far as visually go, you're talking about just visuals. It basically felt more real. The sandworms, honestly.
Wait, is this Sarlacc pit in Empire?
You're right. You're not wrong. You're wrong. Okay, I'm talking about in terms of.
I just out Star Wars PLD?
No. I wasn't saying that it was Empire. What I was saying is the originality of Dune's. I was talking about Dune's original, like Dune stuff looking like familiar to me, retreaded that way, not as good as Return of the Jedi was. But
I just had to enjoy the moment.
I get it. as far as that goes. But talking Empires, everything felt new and unique to me as far as that went. Hoth felt unique to the basis of Hoth felt unique to me. The asteroid field wasn't the Cloud City though. Cloud City, a city in the clouds. The ships they use. I mean, you could talk about the updates if you were from Lucas, and you can like them, you can not like them. I like them because they're going to add a little more to it. But what they had to work with, it just felt more brighter, more sharper, more sharp. That's what the word. That's what uses it for me. Empire Strikes Back visuals to me are sharp and crystal clear. Dune's felt like there's a haze on them.
Ooh, I don't agree with you at all. It is not hazy because they revamped it for 4K and pretty much redone the visual effects. The original visual effects are way clunkier.
Yes, for the time, yes, but because of that time, it's impressive how clear they look.
But we're talking about the movies right now.
I'm saying it's crystal clear. I get that argument, but I still think Empire was more original. It felt more revolutionary. I still look at Empire. I think Empire looks like a better movie. Visually, it looks like a better movie than Dune does. I think Dune kind of matches it into each other. It kind of feels like I've seen this before in a lot of ways. I don't think there's anything like that was terrible. Like I look at it and go, "Holy shit! I've never seen something like this before." With Dune,
but I think that's when you're looking at Dune Part 2. So this is where the visual effects are seamless to me. I'm not thinking, oh, that's a cool way how they did it. It all feels natural, part of the world. Different settings have their own characteristics. Whereas Empire, I'm watching that movie, man, that was revolutionary at that time. Can't believe they did that. But it feels produced, made. It doesn't feel natural. And I know it's weird to talk about natural when we're talking about sci-fi. I know. But you notice the effects in Empire, whereas Dune Part 2, you're like, this feels lived in. This feels real. I could believe that everything, all the explosions, everything were done practically. I could not tell where the CGI and the practical effects end because it just feels like they've shot the entire thing.
But that's exactly the case, though. The argument has always been made that Star Wars is best success because that sci-fi world felt lived in, and it does feel lived in. The ships are there; they're grimy. They're not
compared to Dune. It doesn't. I do agree it does, but compared to Dune Part 2, it doesn't.
I think they both look. I think they both look lived in. I think Empire looks more because I think the slickness of Dune looks more crystallized and more thing. And a land that's full of dust and dirt and grime. If you're not in the Fremen area, then it's like this weird dichotomy of colors and everything else. I'll say it's a failure of the sequel trilogy if you want to talk about that. Like I know we're bringing up totally something. Like sometimes Kylo Ren's ship and they are very clean and sci-fi looking, which I think is a failure in the sequel trilogy. Not a sequel trilogy fan, so never. I'm not knocking the sequels. Let's put it that way. But as far as that goes, Empire felt dirty, felt lived in, felt grimy. I felt the oppression there. Dune, I feel. Like I said, I don't feel anything inspiring in that. Honestly, I didn't feel inspired by it at all. It was good, but I felt like it was like I'm taking this and I'm making this look good. But Empire is like I'm making something new and exciting and making it look good. That's why I think I got to give it to Empire. Go ahead, Gunnar.
There is a reason why I wanted to go with tiebreaker because this was one of the ones that I found most difficult with. You both make a very compelling argument about the use of visual effects. I took this as more the visuals overall, not just the effects used. Which movie to me had the more striking moments? Now with Empire, you have the shot of the AT-ATs like coming through the snow. You have the silhouette of Vader in the cryo chamber. You have Luke laying there with Vader standing over him. There's more striking moments to me in Dune Part 2 than there is Empire. You have Paul holding the knife, standing over the Fremen.
That's it.
The shot at the open with the Jive, what's the name of the army?
Sardaukar.
The Sardaukar. All like going over. You're putting it down. I haven't even given my thing yet. You don't know where I'm going with this, brother. You don't know where I'm going with this. Just that little imprint of the three of them. But then I was watching an interview with Denis about the construction of the scene where Paul tames Shai-Hulud. And what went into that of using the three different kind of soundstage rigs and doing it. Everything had to be done at a certain type of the day, just so the sun would hit perfectly on the shot for the way Denis wanted it to be. That could be very easily done on a soundstage. Could have easily gone in and done that on the volume. This man chose not to. He put his actors through brutal heat, torture, damn near, to get the shots that he wanted. And even the arena scene, Austin Butler said that was hell for him to shoot, but he kept doing it. But it comes back, all this being said, it comes back to the moments that sit with me the most. And there is one that has stuck with me ever since I watched Dune 2. And it's the moment where Fade Rather and Paul are facing off against each other after they've just done the May Thy Knife Chip and Shatter, and they're both standing there. To me, that looked like an oil painting. It looked like a piece of art that I could hang on the wall.
And Vader standing at the top of the steps.
I'm not saying it didn't. I'm not saying it didn't. I'm just saying Dune Part 2 had more.
Which, by the way, Ryan, that's what he's talking about, the shadow and the crowd, not in the crowd chamber, but in the scene with the crowd chamber. He's standing at the top of the steps when Luke
where he's at the top of the steps, and you have that and like the oh shit moment when the doors open, Han's blaster comes flying out of his hand, and it's Vader that's catching it. You're like, oh shit.
And Douglas Dubois, the carbon freezing chamber alone takes it. That's another one. I even forgot to mention that part. The whole carbon freezing chamber, revolutionary at the time. Love that bit.
Dune Part 2 has more of those moments that I'm just like, that. I didn't even get into that. Shot looks fucking cool.
Vader takes a cake for me on that. I didn't get into that aspect of it, so I will take a little rebuttal and say Vader doing that. You talk about what they did to have the snow fighters shoot down through the legs of the AT-AT as they're flying by. Because camera work as it goes flying through the space doing that. There is so many more like little bits of that like, I mean, wait a minute, they made potatoes into asteroids, and they look like freaking asteroids. Talk about whatever you didn't use the volume, and they use potatoes as asteroids, and you believe they're asteroids. That to me says right there why Empire needs to win this. But also visualization, just the pure moments that you talk about, the Vader shadow sequence, Yoda lifting the X-wing out of the swamp as it goes, Luke on his head with floating Muppets around. There's just there is just so much more. Like Dune 2 has some good moments, but as far as iconic memory moments, I think the only thing in 20 years that people are going to remember will be Paul on top of the thing with the thing. That's the poster moment. Empire Strikes Back. Tops that.
I think
I'm not saying iconic moments. I'm just saying beautiful moments, like shots that like stood out.
Memorable iconic moments. Memorable iconic moments. They're going to stand the test of time. I've watched Dune 2 5 times. That's the only shot that like kind of like throws me as like one that's going to stand like for years. Like remember, think about Dune 2. Think about that. You might think about Paul riding the sandworm. Maybe that's something that could do that. But overall, Empire is
the Colosseum scene, dude. The best scene in the movie.
Yes.
I mean, the ship where Fade Ratha and her chick, I can't remember her name, played by the Bond girl. I mean, that is like a dark, totally different, vicious-looking ship.
The shot where Fade like licks the blade.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you sadistic motherfucker.
And it's not derivative, the Colosseum moment. It's not, doesn't look like Gladiator. It's completely different.
Luke standing up to Vader with the boxes being thrown at him, the glass breaking, Vader in the hallway, the Millennium Falcon flying through space, going to TIE fighters.
Oh, that's cinematography. That's field. Just like...
It's part of the visuals, though.
Visuals.
Now with visuals. You're talking visual stuff. I'm gonna play dirty and bring out all the visuals that I have to.
Yeah, but cinematography is one of the best cinematographies in sci-fi movies. I mean, even just Chani and Paul kissing on a desert dune, the camera like does a panning shot I mean,
That's two of the most beautiful
it's
people on the
gorgeous.
planet.
That's well,
I gotta
we're
give
gonna
it to
find
Dune.
out.
Sorry, Paul.
No, you're fired.
Fine.
You're definitely fired. Well, I guess that finishes it up then. That finishes up the case. That's all of our categories. And the winner, The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
8-7. 8-7. I will take it that I would take the victory for what it is. I am dismayed that it was so close, but I will allow you to keep your jobs because at least the right one, righteousness, as Wesley Snipes has said, righteous. Everybody in the chat, chime in what you think. What, do you think we were right? Do you think we were wrong? William Harold saying justice. Star Wars trilogy is still going to be watched in 40, 50 years. Will Dune still be watched in 40, 50 years? I don't know. Find out.
Hasn't even been 5 yet. Give it time.
The correct choice. Yes. Empire overcame election interference to win. That's right. That's right. Stop the count. Stop the count. The Empire has won. How you feeling, gentlemen? I want to know how you feel after that.
I feel good. I feel good.
Jarvie, you're muted, just so you know, Jarvie.
Sorry, I knew that Empire was going to win. There was no contest here. So the fact that the wheel smiled to us and I actually did change one of my choices, which was not on purpose. It wasn't because I want to give Dune more. I actually did like Matty's reasoning a lot.
I believe you, and I believe that all of us here actually made the. I don't think any of us said anything we didn't believe. I honestly say that. I am saying the same thing. I didn't say anything I didn't believe. You look at my cheat sheet. I think you said it says the same thing. The only thing I initially gave Dune the visuals, but I gave it to Empire this time because of like I did the sound design thing. It was the same argument. My initial thought was to give Dune visuals for the same reason, but I listened to the sound design and the creativity behind it, which is what tweaked me. The sound design also tweaked me in visuals. Same type of thing. It's creativity behind it made it more important to me, more long lasting and more striking.
I wonder if you hadn't kept score, your choices would have been different, and that bothers me.
It wouldn't have been because that's the only. I totally, like I said before, it was the sound design thing. If I hadn't had the sound design argument at one point, I hadn't looked back on the sound design, then I wouldn't have known otherwise. So it is what it is. We have arrived where we belong, just as Douglas has said, and justice, my friends, has been served. I'm not going to comment on that because we're going to talk anyway, but justice has been served, whether you believe it or not. We're back at class action next month. I'm not sure what we're doing yet. Probably something a little less heated, I'm going to guess, because I don't know what we could do that could possibly
Captain America.
Captain America. I did use a pencil. Hey, I don't need your help, Ryan. I did use a pencil. I could have erased things. That's true. I could have erased things, but I didn't. Jarvis, you were keeping count too anyway.
Yeah, I didn't. I stopped.
You stopped. Okay. Well, that's what it was. It was 8-7, barely.
We don't need a Juan Flanagan situation.
No, this is on tape, on digital tape, so we can go back and
Go back
if this episode gets deleted accidentally, we know what happened.
You know what happened. Absolutely. All right, guys. Yeah, we'll have to figure out what we're doing next month, and we can try to do this. We're gonna try to get together once a month and do this. We do have Mission Impossible coming out soonish.
Nice.
So you could have Matty could bring back Declassified as well. Maybe even Jarvie could do a Declassified episode there. That'd be a while. We haven't done one of those in a while either. But anyway, good to have you guys here. Always good to do the show. I'm glad we get to do it, even though we can't do it like we used to. We at least have once a month is still a good way to go into the court system. We'll figure out what we're gonna do, and I'll let you guys all know. So we can do it next month. Jarvie, where can the folks find you?
On Facebook and Instagram. Instagram, Richard Eric Jarvie, and that's about it. I'm not on X. I'm not on Twitter.
Okay. Matty, how about you?
You can find me at Matty Morner on everywhere other than Twitter.
I mean, at Paul's Museum on the old Blue Sky, which is I love this place. And still on Place Beyond Pines versus Tribes.
I'm down.
Gosling versus Gosling. Yeah.
That'd be very interesting for sure. I do like that idea. You can find me all over this channel. Obviously, as Matty would say, my name is on the tin. You're seeing, let's see, we got Holy Snokes every week. We do Star Wars, me and Matty. This week, Matty's back, by the way, after we had a little unfortunate instance last week, which made me do a live stream by myself. But we're gonna take our category, our story we were gonna do last week, which is the 5 best Star Wars Disney era characters. We're going to do that. I saved that. I held it off. I just did the news instead. So we'll do that this week on Holy Snokes. I do review every other week with Lego. We're going into the second season now. We're 2 episodes in. That should come out on Wednesday. And then we're going to go on and use the Big Finish audio V reboot that they did, which is really cool. It just came out. I'm not a big, huge fan of audio stuff usually, just audiobooks, but this is pretty cool to listen to. Of course, PJ and I, Two Mediocre White Dudes on film. Tomorrow we are filming Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, getting through the Nightmare on Elm Street saga slowly but surely. And every week, except for this one, I do my Queen podcast, Crown Jewels, with my trip to New York City. I just kind of ran out of time. So I'll have to take this week off for Crown Jewels. I'll come back next week before we continue on the Queen One Collector's Edition box set, revisiting those tracks. We have new tracks to listen to. But that's it then for this. And we will see you next time on Class Action a month from now. And, maybe Place Beyond the Pines Ridge Drive might be the way to go. We'll have to see. But we'll see. We're going to see what happens. Until then, of course, justice has been served.